Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlickers, translations, peasants, vassals, Eurotrash. I'm a useful idiot. And today, as long as I was talking about more bailouts in Cyprus, let's talk about some of the other upcoming bailouts in the Eurozone. Because there's a bunch of countries that are upcoming. Of course, all the countries in Europe eventually will be coming up for bailouts. But let's look at the ones that are just more apparent right now. And surprisingly, a couple of them are countries that we're familiar with because they already got bailouts. And one of them is Portugal. And as it turns out, they got their 78 billion euro bailout. And now they're a little off track, meeting the goals set by Brussels in the Eurozone. And the High Court recently ruled that certain austerity provisions in the budget were unconstitutional, including cutting unemployment and sick benefits, and cutting a 14th paycheck a year, kind of a bonus paycheck. And so they're going to have to do more spending cuts in the welfare state, and they're even thinking of paying government workers with treasury bills. And they're gradually deteriorating, just like everywhere else, and the same feedback loops are in place where you have layoffs and unemployment, you have drops in tax revenue, you have miscalculations and bad math and cooked books and things just and also the deterioration in assets too. This real estate bubble was a doozy, and it's unwinding all over the globe in every single country. So anyway, back to Portugal. Last year they had an unemployment rate of 13%. This year they have an unemployment rate of 16%. So things are going in the wrong direction. And speaking of wrong direction, in order to exacerbate the problem a little bit more, the standard income tax in Portugal was 24.5%. It's going to go up to 28.5%. That's literally going to eat up one whole paycheck of the middle class. So Portugal is hardly done, and they can't get this program going, then they're going to be lining up for yet another bailout. And then we have Ireland. Yeah, what a surprise. Ireland's back on the radar. They're potentially going to have another financial collapse. They have mortgage debt of Irish households is 17 billion euros for a population of only 4.5 million people. So that's pretty staggering. And they have 25% of their mortgages are either restructured or in arrears. So in a total of 25 billion euros in overall exposure. Once again, not that much considering the numbers we've been hearing, but for a population of 4.5 million, that's pretty staggering. And home prices are still down 50% from the height of the bubble, and almost all the mortgages are apparently underwater. And new terms have been hammered out for the bailout for the Anglo-Irish Bank, and that will be paid off for over the next 40 years. So this is a good example of debt slavery when the people of Ireland are going to be on the tab to bail out Anglo-Irish Bank for the next 40 years. And just in case it wasn't enough to go through 5 years of austerity and 28 billion euros in cuts, slashed wages, new taxes and levies, all to pay for this bailout, and 14% unemployment. So now we have the Bank of Ireland, the only bank that wasn't nationalized. And it's cut 5,000 jobs since 2008. And even in spite of those cost-cutting efforts, they reported losses of 2.16 billion euros earlier this month. And Allied Irish Bank and Permanent TSB also have 2.8 billion euros losses in 2012. And they're just full of bad mortgages, and they keep deteriorating. This is the same story we see everywhere. Of course, the executive pay at all those banks is going up, incidentally. And Bloomberg reports that there's a preparation for, quote, the biggest wave of foreclosures in Irish history. So we can, unquote, we can look for that to come up soon too. And with that, perhaps some more write-downs on these bad mortgages and more losses and another bailout. And another thing that will exacerbate the situation even more is a new property tax is set to go in place in July. So let's be keeping our eye on Ireland in July when a new property tax goes into place in a country that's already suffering from 14% unemployment and 5 years of austerity. And then it turns out that the banks haven't revealed their actual losses to regulators, and that's why they passed those last batch of stress tests. What a surprise. What a shocker. Here we go again, another bank hiding its losses. They already got a bailout. Theoretically, they're being kept an eye on pretty tight by regulators, particularly when a lot of these banks are nationalized, and yet they can still hide the numbers and cook their books. So, and then there's a new government proposal in Ireland too that they would actually personally manage personal budgets of those people in mortgage arrears. So we're seeing some pretty surprising things here. To have entire accounts confiscated in Cyprus is one thing, but to have the government come in and manage your personal bank account, what you spend your money on if your mortgage is in arrears, is a pretty scary step in itself too. So there we have two old friends, Portugal and Ireland, are probably going to be lining up for bailouts soon. And then we have Slovenia. There's been a lot of talk of Slovenia being next after Cyprus. And the banks there were downgraded by Fitch last week, and they have a banking collapse in progress in Slovenia. And whoa, what a surprise. I don't know if this is going to sound familiar, probably even from earlier in this video. They, quote, underestimated the level of bad loans and need for new capital, unquote. So once again, they have the books. They didn't underestimate the level of bad loans. They knew exactly how many bad loans they have. They've just been cooking the books, and they're so bad now that they actually have to fess up. And they had a 2.1% contraction in the economy last year. And as always, the Eurozone recommends raising the pension age, cutting welfare, cutting unemployment, and privatization of public assets. The same thing we see everywhere. Fire sale on assets be sold for pennies on the dollar to institutional investors. And, of course, all the usual cutting the welfare state. So Slovenia will be bearing the whip of the ECB and the EU. And Slovenia, part of their problem is their debt to GDP doubled between 2009 and 2011. So they're probably the fastest growing debt around because of corruption and inefficiency. And NLB, their largest bank, has been nationalized and bailed out 2 years ago at the cost of 600 million euros. And their banks are full of 15% bad loans, also prime loans. Construction companies are going bankrupt, 60% delinquent loans to the construction companies. The real estate market is now frozen, and estimates are that the banks have taken more than 20 to 30% real estate losses just since 2011. So things are getting bad there quick, and the same formulas and the same root causes and everything that we see everywhere. Unemployment is 11.5% in 2011. It's probably more like 13, 14, 15% now. And the IMF estimates they only need €1 billion bailout. Fairly small, but if they treat Cyprus the way that they treat Slovenia the way they treated Cyprus, then we're going to see some creative bailouts going on there. And then we have Bulgaria. Bulgaria became a European Union member in 2007 and also joined NATO, but they're EU's poorest country. And their economy dramatically crashed through the 90s with the fall of the Soviet Union because they were so tied to that. And they only recovered by around 2003. And they were doing fine up until the economic crash of 2008. So unfortunately, they only got to enjoy 5 years of relative wealth. But real estate collapse has been 38%. So once again, a big, huge real estate bubble. And the government resigned just last February. But of course, you don't really hear much about Bulgaria. And anti-austerity street riots, mainly caused by rising electricity costs. And they also have 13% bad loans, just like Slovenia, in their banking system. And in fact, real estate went up from 2000 to 2008. Their real estate prices went up 300%. And So this is another example, another blueprint. Different countries and variations on the theme, but all these countries with the same real estate, with the same banking system, speculating on real estate, the bubble that just kept going and going and going all over the globe. And now every single country's paying for the banks and their real estate speculation in collusion, of course, with the central banks, the governments, and all the bad actors. So there we have it. There's a roundup of 4 countries that are on the lineup for new bailouts, and we can also look for other countries as well that are drastically going down the drain. I keep threatening to do a video on Eurozone, but it's probably better that I break it off in chunks like this, because France, Italy, and Spain obviously are up to bat as well. And now we have the Netherlands and Slovenia and Portugal and Ireland and Bulgaria. And in fact, coincidentally, just today, turns out a European Commission report came out and named 13 countries that need to get their shit together. And it all has to do about writing down their losses and adjusting for bad loans. And it's funny because there's only 17 countries in the Eurozone. The European Commission says 13 of them have to tidy up their books. And that includes France, but it also mentioned Slovenia and Spain, Belgium, Netherlands, and pretty much everybody. So there we have it. Just fun to watch the bi-weekly The Eurozone is Saved mantra, and then see the underlying foundations rotting before our eyes. And like I say, the same mechanisms going on about corrupt banks and speculation and bad real estate loans. And here we go. So I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too.